Life sucks. Sometimes you feel like ending it all. Sometimes you feel like there's no purpose to keep living. Sometimes you just want to give up, curl into a ball, and put a weighted blanket on you and never try. Never try to succeed. You just want to give up. If you feel like that's you, this video is for you. If you feel like you're at rock bottom, this video is for you. Now, you've had enough people try to sympathize with you. You don't want to hear someone say, I know what you're going through, because they don't. Because your experience is unique. I don't know what you're going through, and I won't be able to understand because what you're going through, no one else has been through, because it's unique to you. But what I can tell you is other people have been through challenges. Now, I want to tell you a story of one of the biggest challenges that I've been through, and I hope that you can learn a lesson from it. When I was 14 years old, I got a severe brain injury. I was skateboarding, I hit a curb, and I whiplashed my head to the concrete. Imagine you're like flying like Superman, and then just boom, you whiplash your head to the concrete. Knocked me out, broke multiple bones, but I didn't know I actually hurt my head. I went to the hospital, and they're like looking at my arm, your arm's broken, and I was in the hospital. I remember I was seeing tunnel vision. My whole vision was black, and I could only see just this little tunnel. But I was 14, I didn't think anything of it. I didn't know what traumatic brain injuries were, so I didn't know that what I just did was gonna ruin or destroy the next 4 years of my entire life. Now, I got my arm, right, went to surgery, got my arm fixed, got a cast. I went home, and for the next 30 days, I would wake up, I would puke the entire morning, and my brain would hurt so bad that I couldn't even think, and I would sit in a dark room for 30 days. My mom had no idea what was going on. I had no idea what was going on. We ended up talking to some medical professionals, and they ended up telling me that I have something called a TBI, a traumatic brain injury. Now, this is much worse than a concussion. It's so bad that it made me lose the majority of my memory of all of my childhood, everything that I had learned. It made me lose the ability to consciously think whatsoever. I couldn't sit in a car for over a year because the windshield wipers on a car would hurt my head so much. I had to wear giant glasses, black glasses, everywhere I went because the light hurt my eyes so much. Now, this was the most painful part of my entire life. This was one of the biggest struggles that I've ever been through. I missed all of my high school. I never hung out with friends. I didn't do anything. For years, I sat at my house in absolute pain. My family didn't know what would happen to me. They didn't know how I would be. Nobody knew if I would ever recover. It looked like I was going to be kind of like a vegetable for my entire life. Never be able to consciously think, never be able to do math, never be able to write. I couldn't read because looking at the words would hurt my head too much. Everybody thought that was the end for me. Like, everybody thought that's where it is. And I remember when I was 16, I was sitting there and I was like, there is no point to continue living. If this is how I'm going to be for the rest of my life, why would I continue living? Now, it gets worse. When I was 16, my brother, who I love dearly, got diagnosed with schizophrenia. He didn't know he had it, and he ended up committing a violent crime, and he landed in the judicial system. So he was 18 years old, and his whole life got stripped away from him. And I remember getting a text in my group chat of somebody saying, hey, before you hear this from everyone else, I want you to know that Canyon's brother tried to kill someone last night. It's a true story, and my brother has given me the permission to tell this story on his behalf. And my parents didn't know, and I'm 16, and I'm sitting in my house, and I just got this text. And I had to call my dad, and I called my dad, and I said, hey, Dad, I don't know what's going on, I don't know what this means, but Cyrus tried to kill someone, and he's in jail right now. I had to say that as a 16-year-old to my dad. I had to tell my dad that. It was very hard. That tore my family apart. Every single person in my family went into shock, went into all sorts of emotions because there's my mom, my dad, me, and my brother. And my brother's always been a great person. He's always been amazing. He's been, like, you would never have known. Undiagnosed schizophrenia, if you know about it, you can't stop it. Like, you're a regular person, and then one day you go into psychosis, and you have a psychotic break. And that's what happened. Now, so at 16, while I'm facing the worst brain injury of my entire life, I can't consciously think. I'm throwing up every morning. My head hurts 24/7. I have to wear sunglasses and a hat all the time over my head. And then I had nobody. My dad was there to take care of my mom, and my mom was obviously grieving because her only son is now in the judicial system, and this is 5 years ago, and he's still in the judicial system today. So I was in pain and alone, and I started doing a bunch of things that's not good for you, a bunch of coping mechanisms, a bunch of things to make the pain go away. And this went on and on. All I wanted to do was distract myself. Now, when I turned 17, I had this awakening moment once where I realized that my brother's life was taken away from him, and it's disrespectful to him if I keep wasting my life. And I started to want to improve. I started going to the gym. I still felt horrible, but I started trying to take my sunglasses off a little bit and see if I could recover from my brain injury. I started trying to learn how to read. I started trying to listen to audiobooks. Although my brain still wouldn't work, I wanted to be better, and I felt I owed it to my brother. Now for months, I started to get a little bit better. And I noticed the years where I did nothing to try to improve myself was why I was so bad, because I never took a step to try to become healthier. I never took a step to try to improve my mental health, my physical health. And once I started going to the gym, once I started reading, I started noticing my concussion symptoms, my traumatic brain injury symptoms. They started actually getting better, and they weren't as bad. And I started to heal. And 3 months went by, and then I could go outside without sunglasses. And 6 months went by, and I could talk to people, and I could hold conversations, and I could articulate my thoughts, and I could actually think deeply. 9 months by, I could read. I could do math. I could write. I could drive a car, these things that I couldn't do before because my brain hurt so bad. And alhamdulillah, when I was 18, I was almost like I didn't have my concussion again. Now, the reason why I tell you this is because if you told my 15-year-old self, my 16-year-old self, who was isolated, lonely, and in pain, that there would be a day that he'd be better, that there would be a day that he recovers, he wouldn't have believed you. There would have been nothing you could tell him that would have made him feel like his pain would go away eventually, because he was so enveloped in so much pain. Just like what you might be right now, where it doesn't really matter how much I tell you, there's light at the end of the tunnel, things will get better, your worst times turn into your best times, because you've heard it. But what I can tell you is I got better. And I only got better by one day deciding that regardless of how bad I feel, I'm going to try to put one foot in front of the other. I'm not going to focus on curing my depression. I'm not going to focus on changing my entire life. I'm going to focus on going to the gym. I'm going to focus on reading a book. And no matter how much I don't want to, I'm going to do one thing. And that's how I genuinely started to recover. Because recovery doesn't happen by someone saying, you just gotta persevere. You've heard that. You don't care. Man, it's painful. I know. So if I could give you one piece of advice, it would be, you don't have to justify that it sucks. You can accept that it sucks. But try to do one thing to be better. Try to go to the gym. That's what I recommend. And what I can tell you now that it's been 3 years of me being recovered from my brain injury. Doctors told me when I was 16, Canyon, you will have a traumatic brain injury for the rest of your life. This will affect you for the rest of your life. It doesn't affect me anymore. There's nothing in my brain injury. I have 0 symptoms left. I used to not be able to eat gluten. I couldn't have dairy. Like, it messed up my whole stomach. I could barely eat food. I could only have like specific foods. I don't have that anymore. I can see, I'm outside without sunglasses on, and I've healed. And now I look back on those 4 years of pain, those 4 years of loneliness and depression and horrible stuff. I look back on that as the most character-building parts of my entire life. Because that happened to me, I built compassion for other people. I built an understanding for the struggles people go through. I know that people have it worse than me. But without that, I would never have had the character development. So I want to leave you with one thing. If you can stick it out, which I want you to, I want you to stick it out. If you can stick out the pain you're going through, I promise you, in 5, 10, 20 years, what you're going through right now will be the catalyst to create the person you're going to become. It's going to make you a stronger person. I can't sympathize with you because I don't know exactly what you're going through. But what I can tell you is the best thing that worked for me was going to the gym, was reading books, and taking it one day at a time, and feeling okay that I can be depressed. I don't need to oh, why am I depressed? Why do I feel so bad? Why am I in so much pain? I'm in pain. That's what it is. I'm in pain. But eventually the pain will be gone. And you'll get through it. I love you. You got this.